welcome to another fun-filled episode of Celebrity Fiction, the show where we introduce you to your favorite characters from the fictional world. I'm your host, Matt Hatter, and we've got a great lineup of fictional characters for you tonight. So let's kick off our show by turning it over to Regular Matt with our first guest. Regular? Thanks, Hatter. Well, let's not waste any more time. Let's introduce our first guest, a recent high school graduate who is still on a quest to understand. He's the narrator and protagonist of the New York Times best-selling novel by John Green, Paper Towns. His name is Quentin, but to his close friends, he's known as Q. Let's welcome Q to the show, everybody. That's not Q. Well, no, actually, that is Q. Okay, yeah, but it's not Q from Paper Towns. It's Q, the omniscient, omnipotent character from Star Trek: The Next Generation. It's not the Q I was looking for. What's going on here?
It's Judge Q to you. And isn't it obvious what's going on?
No, not really, because I asked for the Q of Paper Towns. I didn't ask for this fascinating character though you are. I didn't really ask for the...
Oh, you'd like me to connect the dots for you, lead you from A to B to C so that your puny mind could comprehend?
Well, I'm not sure that that's really true.
I'd be so much more entertained if you just tried to figure it out.
Okay, well, let's move on to our next guest, shall we? In fact, let's turn it over to the next feature of the show, Celebrity Classics. Now, last week we had a huge success with our classic character, so much so that we decided to invite him back for you today. He is a progressive lawyer from Macomb County and father of two. Please give a warm welcome back to Atticus Finch. Atticus, great to have you back on the show. We were just talking about what a huge success you were last week in that wonderful, moving interview that you gave. In fact, we have a clip. Can we play a clip of last week's interview?
In this country, our courts are the great levelers. In our courts, all men are created equal.
Well, let's introduce now this week's classic character. She is a young, precocious orphan with a huge imagination. Please give a warm welcome to the protagonist from Frances Hodgson Burnett's A Little Princess, the Little Princess herself, Sarah Crew. Sarah, thank you so much for being on the show. Now, we all know that you have a huge imagination, but we also know that you have lived a very difficult childhood, what with your father dying and living in the oppressive environment that you did for much of your childhood. Would you please tell us and the people at home, just how did you get through it? How did you manage? How did you use that imagination of yours to cope during that very difficult time?
I imagined a different ending.
An inspiration, truly, for fictional characters everywhere. Now, Sarah, you have said throughout your story that you imagine yourself as a princess in order to cope. Now, tell us truly, do you really believe yourself a princess?
Even if they live in tiny old attics? Even if they dress in rags? Even if they aren't pretty, or smart, or young? They're still princesses. All of us.
How very moving indeed. Let's give her a round of applause, everybody. Sarah Crew. And now let's turn it back over to Regular Matt to close off our program with our final very special guest. Thanks again, Hatter. Ladies and gentlemen, we have, to close out our show tonight, a very special guest. A prolific character in literature, but someone who's very hard to get a hold of because of many demands on his time. He is someone who we all must meet someday. The only certainty in life other than taxes. Please welcome with me the narrator of Marcus Zuzak's The Book Thief, the Grim Reaper, or as he's also known, Death. Welcome, Death, please. Thank you, Regular, for having me on the show. It's really great to be here. I'm glad. Oh, hey, 1 minute. Sorry about that. Now, Death, we know that the story of Liesl Meminger meant a lot to you, so much so that there was a book about it. So, would you please tell us a little bit about Liesl Meminger and exactly what she meant to you? Liesl? Liesl. You sure you don't mean Luna? Luna? Luna. No, I'm pretty sure her name is Liesel Meminger. She a little girl who grew up in Nazi Germany, and stole books from a graveside and a Nazi book burning and a library, and learned how to read with those books, and found out about the power of words, and how Hitler used those words, and how she could use those words to stand against Hitler, and how she befriended a Jew who was being hidden in her basement. Any of this ringing a bell? You sure not talking about the story where I got to such a low in my life where I attempted to kill myself, but as soon as I had the gun to my head, I saw death coming through the door, and so I turned the gun on him instead and killed him, and because I killed Death, I then became Death and had to assume all of his duties, and during the course of my duties, I discovered a plot by the devil involving this young girl named Luna, who I fell in love with, and in order to save her life, I then went on strike and stopped taking the souls from the dead bodies in order to fight the devil. Are you sure that's not the story you're talking about? I think I see the problem. I think there's been a little bit of a mix-up. Mr. Reaper, you are not, in fact, the Death from Marcus Zuzak's The Book Thief, are you? You are, in fact, the Death from Piers Anthony's On a Pale Horse. Oh, yes, that would account for it. Yeah, that's me, Thanatos. Zane, I used to be known by, yes. So sorry about that. No, that's quite all right. You are quite a fascinating character as well, and I'm sure that you have a wonderful story to tell, but unfortunately, we are out of time for today. I would like to thank all of our guests today for appearing on our show: Atticus Finch, Sarah Crew, Death, and Q. And I would like to invite all of you to return to us next week when we will have on our show The Boy Who Lived and the Dark Lord Who Wants to Kill Him. Should be an interesting show. Hope you'll tune in next week. Until then, I'm Regular Matt.
And I'm the Mad Hatter, reminding you to keep imagining.